When was the last time you truly felt powerless? Not the kind of discomfort that comes from being stuck in traffic or having your phone die at 2%. No, I mean the moment your body screams, "Stop!" Your mind starts crafting excuses, and your spirit trembles at the thought of continuing. That quiet moment before you quit. When everything inside you wants to flee, but something deeper whispers, "Stay." We live in a world that avoids pain at all costs. One tap brings dinner. One scroll gives pleasure. One excuse justifies quitting. From the moment we wake, comfort surrounds us: heated showers, curated playlists, algorithm-fed pleasure. And with each convenience, a subtle erosion happens. We grow softer, more reactive, less prepared for the inevitable discomforts that life will throw our way. The modern world has taught us a dangerous lie, that pain is a signal to retreat, that if something feels uncomfortable, it must be wrong. But the Stoics saw it differently. For them, discomfort wasn't a threat, it was a tool, a forge. Seneca once wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you will be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, so that you may learn to endure hardship." He wasn't romanticizing suffering. He was training for it, practicing lack so that abundance wouldn't weaken him. That mindset of choosing discomfort voluntarily lies at the heart of Stoic resilience. Epictetus echoed this when he said, "Difficulties show a person's character. So when trouble comes, think of it as training." That's what life is. Training. Every hardship is not just an obstacle, but an invitation to sharpen the mind, fortify the spirit, and stretch the limits of who we think we are. To a Stoic, resilience isn't born in crisis. It's cultivated daily through small acts of chosen discomfort. Not because we enjoy suffering, but because we refuse to be enslaved by ease. So the question becomes, how do we train that muscle? How do we choose discomfort, not in a masochistic way, but in a deliberate, empowering way so we become harder to break? Let's find out. There are 3 paths to inner resilience. 3 doors, if you will, that lead to strength, not the loud, performative kind, but the quiet, enduring kind that doesn't flinch when life turns dark. These are the discomforts of the body, the emotions, and the comforts we cling to. Let's begin with the body. It's the most immediate, the most honest. You don't need philosophy to feel your legs shake after a long run, or your breath tremble in a cold shower. The body doesn't lie. And that's why it's the perfect place to start. Take something simple, a cold shower. Most people never choose it. Why would they? It's unpleasant, but that's the point. You stand there, water hitting your skin like needles, and your first instinct is panic. Everything inside screams, "Get out." And yet, you stay, you breathe, you reclaim control. And when you step out, you haven't just endured water, you've trained your will. You've proven to yourself, I can choose discomfort and not be ruled by it. This is what Seneca practiced when he wore rough clothing and ate simple meals, not because he had to, but because he wanted to make himself unshakable. Because he knew, if you only feel strong when things are easy, you're not strong. You're lucky. The second path is emotional, and it's often harder. Most of us are willing to endure sore muscles, but to sit with raw, exposed emotion, that's a different kind of courage. It means facing the fear of rejection, of failure, of not being good enough. It means saying, I was wrong, when your pride wants to pretend you weren't. It means reaching out when your ego says, stay silent. Discomfort here comes not from cold or hunger, but from vulnerability. A man I once spoke to described his greatest act of strength, not as running a marathon or climbing a mountain, but walking into his boss's office to ask for a raise, something he had feared for years. Not because he doubted his performance, but because he feared the rejection, the feeling of being told he wasn't enough. but he faced it anyway, not because he was fearless, but because he had trained his spirit to move toward discomfort, not away from it. That's what Epictetus meant when he said, "It's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them." Most of the pain we feel emotionally isn't from the thing itself, it's from our avoidance of it, our fear of feeling it fully. But when you lean in, when you stay, the fear loses its grip, and you gain something greater than relief. You gain self-respect. The third path is the subtle but powerful discomfort of depriving yourself of modern ease, voluntary simplicity. It doesn't mean rejecting technology or comfort out of principle, but it means asking, what do I actually need to be okay? Try this. Go a day without your phone, or sleep on the floor for a week, or fast for 20 hours. These aren't acts of deprivation, they're reminders. Reminders that you are not owned by your habits, that pleasure is not your master, that you can do hard things not when forced, but by choice. Epictetus taught, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. And that starts with practicing detachment, not when life strips things away, but when you do it willingly. You find power not in addition, but in subtraction. Each of these practices, physical strain, emotional courage, and voluntary simplicity, is a daily opportunity. Not to punish yourself, but to train. Because if you only get stronger when life makes you suffer, you're playing defense. The Stoic trains on offense. He steps into the discomfort before life throws it at him, so when the storm comes, he doesn't flinch. And this leads us to one man's story. His name is Franklin Annis, a teacher, a veteran, and in many ways, a modern Stoic. A few years ago, Franklin decided to do something most people wouldn't even dream of. Walk 1,000 miles on foot, carrying a heavy backpack across rural America. No sponsors, no media attention, no applause, just a man, the road, and a mission to test his endurance and reclaim his inner strength. Each day was a grind. Blisters formed, muscles ached, weather turned from sweltering heat to punishing cold. And every morning, the same voice in his head returned. You could stop. No one would judge you. No one would even know. But Franklin kept walking. He walked through pain, through boredom, through doubt. And in doing so, something shifted. His mind became quieter. His fear of discomfort dissolved. The outer journey became an inner one. As he later reflected, the real training wasn't in my legs, it was in silencing the voice that told me I couldn't. That is Stoicism in motion. Not a quote on a coffee mug, not a caption under a gym selfie, but the act of choosing the harder path, not because you want to suffer, but because you want to grow. You don't need to walk 1,000 miles to experience this transformation. It can start smaller, much smaller. For me, it began with something as mundane as a cold shower. I remember the first morning I made the switch. It was winter. My body recoiled before the water even touched me. I stood outside the tub, hesitating, already arguing with myself. Why are you doing this? No one will know if you don't. But I stepped in, my breath caught, my skin screamed, but I stayed. Just 60 seconds. When I stepped out, shivering but proud, I realized something powerful. I had done what I said I would do, despite every cell in my body pleading for comfort. And in that moment, I didn't just win against cold water, I won against weakness. You see, every small discomfort we embrace on purpose rewires something inside us. It builds the message, I am not fragile. And over time that becomes truth, unshakable truth. This is what the Stoics understood, that resilience isn't a trait you're born with, it's a skill you build, not in moments of glory, but in small, private battles with the self. So here's the question. What discomfort will you choose today? Not because you have to, but because you want to be someone who doesn't break easily, Someone who doesn't panic at adversity. Someone who's trained, forged, ready. Start with one act, one moment where you say, "This is hard, but I'll do it anyway." Sit with silence instead of distraction. Say the truth instead of hiding. Skip the luxury you crave. Or walk into the cold instead of running from it. And once you've done it, reflect. Not on how uncomfortable it was, but on how alive it made you feel, how awake, how strong. That is the Stoic way, not avoiding pain, but walking through it on purpose. So when life tests you, you don't crumble, you nod and keep walking. If this message spoke to something inside you, try this. For the next 24 hours, choose one deliberate discomfort. Just one. Then come back and share what happened, what you felt, what you learned. Let's build resilience together, one small act at a time. And if this philosophy resonates with you, subscribe, because here we don't chase comfort, we forge character. And that starts now.